I have been interested in our mining situation for a long time. I've covered it in other videos. I covered it before I was even doing my own thing. Been researching the whole thing for 10 years. I'm not an expert on everything, but I know quite a bit about it. Not a miner, but by any stretch of the imagination, either with an E or an O. But I've decided to do this series on where and what is going on with American mining. Now, one of the important parts to our economy, we need copper. Whether it's for wiring in houses or it's for phones or computers, whatnot, we need copper. Now, when you take a look at in 2023, we brought in 6.91 billion with the B, 6.91 billion dollars worth of refined copper. No joke. Most of that came from Chile. Yeah, it's idiotic. Oh, and by the way, while we're importing $6.91 billion, we're exporting copper. Well, that in all honesty, I don't think it's so much as we're exporting it as we've got mines. And that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about the mines. We've got several mines that are owned by foreign entities. Now, to give you an idea, we have currently 19 working mines. Keep that in mind. We also have 8 mines that are in the process of getting to the point that they can be mined. We also have several inactive mines that most likely has copper in them, but we have to deal with environmentalists. Oh, we've got all kinds of problems. Never mind that most of what they're whining and moaning about, yeah, no. It's basically a way for the Democrat Party to make money via the government, because you know where the fines are going to. They're going to government agencies that are then giving the money to green organizations that are funneling that to the Democrat Party. That's why it is. So, we're going to take a look at, in this video, about copper mining. And I'm going to break it down. I'm even going to talk about American mines, or American-owned mines, so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about here. And we're going to then talk about, at the end of the video, we're going to talk about refining and smelting, because that is a very important thing in this conversation. So, hang in there, and we're about to go into a lot of talk about copper. Okay, the first company that we're going to talk about is an American one. It is Freeport-McMoRan Copper and Gold. Well, Freeport-McMoRan. They own 7 of the 19 U.S. mines that are in operation, one of which is co-owned with the Japanese Sumitomo Group. Freeport-McMoRan owns 72%, Sumitomo owns 28%, and it is the only copper mining consideration that Sumitomo has in the United States. They aren't working on getting a mine started, neither is Freeport. And like I said, Freeport owns 7 mines. They actually own the number 1 mine in the U.S. Freeport is the world's largest producer of molybdenum. That's got so many uses, it's not even worth getting into. One of the largest producers of copper. 79% of its revenues in 2019 were from sales of copper, 11% were from sales of gold, 8% were from sales of molybdenum. In 2019, sales to the company's copper refining joint venture in Gresik Regency, which is in Indonesia, accounted for 13% of total revenues of the company. Okay, so they got mines all over the place. In all honesty, I've got a problem. I mean, yeah, okay, cool. They own all of these mines. Why aren't these countries getting to mine their own stuff? That kind of it's a lot of these countries, their people are coming over here. No joke. So yeah, this is part of the problem that I have with the way that mining is going on. Okay, so that is Freeport McMoran. Like I said, there are 19 mines that are currently in operation. 7 of them owned by an American company. Capstone Copper is a Canadian company. They only run 1 mine in the U.S. Capstone is a base metals mining company. It involved in the exploration and production of metals in Chile, the U.S., Canada, Mexico. The company focuses on production of copper with gold, silver, zinc, molybdenum, copper concentrate produced as byproducts. Capstone's production assets include a mine in Mexico, 1 or 2 in Chile, and 1 in Arizona. So they're not a major company, but they do own one of the U.S. mines. So that is somebody that I wanted to talk about. Grupo Mexico, I'm sure you can figure out where they're based out of, owns 3 of the mines. 2 are in Pima County, Arizona. 1's in Pinal County, Arizona. Company was founded in 1978. It's become a significant player in the mining industry, responsible for 87.5% of Mexico's copper production by 2000. Company has faced ongoing conflict with the Mexican Mine Workers Union, acquired a controlling interest in the Southern Peru Copper Corporation in 2004. Company is the largest mine operator in Mexico and Peru, 3rd largest in the United States, and the 4th largest copper producer worldwide, and controls the largest copper reserves globally. So, another part of the company, Grupo Mexico operates the 2nd largest transportation division in Mexico and the United States, in U.S. states of Texas and Florida, owning several entities that collectively operate over 11,000 kilometers of track connecting major cities, ports, border crossings, and manage 40 intermodal freight facilities across Mexico. ESARCO, another part of it, has been held responsible for environmental pollution at 20 Superfund sites across the U.S. by the Environmental Protection Agencies. Grupo Mexico, ESARCO's owner, has also faced environmental issues in Mexico, including a sulfuric acid spill into the Sea of Cortez, the Posta de Conchos mine disaster, and the Rio Sonora spill. Despite these incidents, Grupo Mexico reported a decrease in total CO2e emissions for the year ending December 2020. So, yeah, they're allowed to operate 3 mines in the U.S., even though they've created 20 Superfund sites. Go figure. The next company that we're going to talk about has 2 copper mines in the U.S. That is KGHM Polska Miedz Um, it's a Polish multinational mining corporation headquartered in Lublin, Lower Silesia, Poland. Founded in 1961 as a state enterprise, the company is considered a major global producer of copper and silver. Since 1997, it's been listed on the Warsaw Stock Exchange. The company is also a component of another stock market index. Currently, KGHM employs 34,000 people worldwide and operates 9 open pit and underground mines in Poland, Canada, and the United States and Chile. KGHM produces key global resources including copper, copper sulfate, gold, silver, nickel sulfate, molybdenum, rhenium, lead, sulfuric acid, selenium, platinum, group metals. So, the biggest controversy that these people have had, for some reason, they dumped toxic waste into the Oder River, illegally causing a massive ecological disaster. The dumping of industrial wastewater, which had higher than normal salt content, allowed proliferation of a species of algae. It was called the 2022 Oder environmental disaster. Caused a mass mortality event involving fish, beavers, clam, crayfish, and other wildlife. So that is another one of the owners of copper mines here in the U.S. This next one's a small one. They own one mine, and it's actually an American company. They're the Lisbon Valley Mining Company. Looking over who they are, basically they're mining copper so that they produce pure copper cathode, which is a key raw material supporting growing sources of renewable energy, including solar, wind power, as well as electric vehicles. So basically, they developed this to help the green industry. Not that big of a deal. They're not even producing that much. Now, here is a company that they bought a mine not because of the copper, but copper is a byproduct. It is a Canadian company. They're called London, as you can see. And they bought the mine because nickel is the main thing they were looking for. So, the Eagle Mine in Michigan. London Corporation's a Canadian company that owns and operates mines in Sweden, United States, Chile, Portugal, Brazil that produce base metals such as copper, zinc, and nickel. Headquartered in Toronto, the company was founded by Adolf London and operated by Lucas London. While it was incorporated to pursue an interest in a diamond mine in Brazil, the company restructured, raised funds to develop the Storlinden mine in Sweden. It purchased the Swedish Zinkgruvan mine from Rio Tinto and then merged with Archon International Resources for its Galmoy mine in Ireland. A couple other things. The company subsequently purchased and operates the Eagle Mine and 2 other mines elsewhere. So, not a major company, but it is another international company. While I am listing all the companies, I am showing you we have a lot of international companies owning mines in the U.S. Another American company, I've been kind of going through these little alphabetical. It's an American company by the name of Montana Resources LLP. They only own one mine. Matter of fact, even though it was bought up by the Washington companies, and the company formed in 1985 with the purpose of restarting copper mining in Butte. Mining, the town's mainstay and claim to fame, had been stopped several years previously when Anaconda Copper shut down its Butte mines. In 1986, Montana Minerals reactivated the Continental mines, which Anaconda had idled in 1983. Continental Pit closed again in 2000 but reopened in 2003. As of 2006, remaining ore reserves at Continental Pit were estimated to be 364 million tons. This has got copper, molybdenum, and silver. in there. So, not a major mine, but it's keeping an area going. Okay, this next one is a little wonky. Kintara Capital owns a company called Southwest Critical Materials LLC. Okay. Kintara Capital is a Canadian company. They own, like I said, Southwest Critical Materials, which is based in the U.S. Their main address is at the Pumpkin Hollow Mine in Lyon County, Nevada. Now, originally that was owned by Nevada Copper, but they went bankrupt. How you go bankrupt running a mine, I don't know. But it took like $128 million for them to buy it last year. They aren't currently doing anything. I mean, they're probably going to start it back up. But it's an open pit mine, and I don't know a lot about it. I don't even know how much it's producing per year, to be honest with you. Yeah, it just started. It was started in like 2019. They probably went bankrupt because of all the governmental garbage. But yeah, that's a now owned by a Canadian company mine. Newmont owns one mine. It is an American company, but I think they mostly own it because there's gold in them Nar Hills. The one mine they own is the Phoenix Mine out of Lander County, Nevada. It's gold, copper ore concentrated and leached. They're They're based in Greenwood Village, Colorado, the world's largest gold mining corporation. Incorporated in 1921, it owns gold mines in U.S., Canada, Mexico, Dominican Republic, Australia, Ghana, several countries. In addition to gold, Newmont mines copper, silver, zinc, and lead. Stuff that you can find in gold, or alongside of gold, by the way. It's actually, like in 2019, it bought the Canadian mining company Goldcorp. It acquired in 2023 Newcrest Mining. That was a $60.8 billion buy. Newmont has approximately 31,600 employees and contractors worldwide, and is the only gold company on the S&P 500 stock market index. So, hey, it's because there's gold, they have copper interest. We are now going to get into some of the other stuff. The last active mine, if you've been keeping track, is owned by a company named Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto owns several mines in the U.S., but this is the only copper mine that they are currently operating. But they do have one that is in. It's permitted. It's getting ready to be started. It's 55% owned by Rio Tinto, 45% owned by BHP. Rio Tinto's the second largest. BHP is the largest mining companies in the world. Rio Tinto is a British-Australian multinational company. They are traded in both Australia and London. BHP, also known as the Broken Hill Property Company, is purely Australian. BHP owning mines, that's the only mine that the only copper mine that they're going to have anything to do with in the U.S., so it's not even operating yet. So Rio Tinto's British Australian multinational company, world's second largest metals and mining production, or mining corporation, founded in 1873. It's a dual-listed company. They are exactly what you would expect. Also, The British branch is also traded here on the New York Stock Exchange. It's considered the 114th largest public company as of 2020. They face criticism by environmentalist groups, as well as government of Norway for environmental impacts of its mining activity. It's the one that they run currently is in Salt Lake City, Utah, second biggest copper mine in the U.S. Open pit copper, molybdenum ore, copper cathode, the molybdenum concentrate, gold, silver, sulfuric acid. And the other mine that they're looking at getting, it's called the Resolution Mine. It's in Pinal County, Arizona. It's going to be an underground mine, and it's under what was an inactive mine by the name of Magma Mine. So, yeah, this is a company that I have a feeling that they will have more to do in the U.S. than just what you're seeing now. So, yeah, plus they already own a lot of other mining in this country. In this country, one of which is they deal with uranium mining in this country. So let's get into the mines that have not started operation yet. Northern Dynasty Minerals is a Canadian company that their one and only claim to fame is owning the Pebble Limited Partnership. It's advancing the world-class Pebble Project in Alaska towards development. The Pebble Project is in federal permitting. The Pebble Project is the world's largest undeveloped copper, gold, molybdenum, silver, rhenium resource. The company is focused on designing, permitting, building, and operating a modern mine. Okay. This is in Anchorage, Alaska area. Well, it's in Alaska. Now, it's actually an interesting story on this. Me covering this, I did not realize this. This story was actually written March 24th, 2025. So I honestly, until I was researching the story that I'd already said that I was going, or already knew that I was going to be covering, I didn't know that about this. So, shares of Northern Dynasty Minerals Limited jumped more than 30% on Monday after President Donald Trump invoked emergency powers last week to strengthen U.S. critical mineral production. Okay, so the rhenium is a big deal when it comes to all kinds of things, but primarily when it comes to military stuff. So also copper, gold, all that is at this mine. Now, the reason why this mine is still being permitted, controversial copper giant is what it is. The rest of this. This is coming out of mining.com. Northern Dynasty's Pebble Project is considered the world's largest undeveloped copper deposit, alongside significant amounts of gold. Okay, all that other stuff. Rhenium resource, a mineral critical for military applications, yada yada yada. However, the project has faced strong opposition for nearly 2 decades due to its potential environmental impact. The proposed mine site lies in the Bristol Bay region, home of the world's largest sockeye salmon fisheries. January 2023, the EPA blocked the project by prohibiting Northern Dynasty's U.S. subsidiary from storing mine waste in the Bristol Bay watershed. The company has since filed a complaint arguing that the EPA's decision violates federal statutes, including Alaska statehood rights and a land exchange approved by Congress. Over an estimated 20-year mine life, Pebble is expected to turn out 6.4 billion pounds of copper, 7.4 million ounces of gold, 300 million pounds of molybdenum, plus 37 million ounces of silver and 200,000 kilograms of rhenium. So this is an interesting mine, and I would probably feel a whole lot safer or a whole lot happier about it if it wasn't for the fact that, well, it's owned by a Canadian company, not an American company. This next one is also in development. It's owned by Hudbay Minerals Incorporated. It's a diversified Canadian mining company primarily producing copper concentrate and zinc metal. Much of its history is centered on Flin Flon, Manitoba, where it has mined for over 90 years. Hudbay is currently in operations in Manitoba and Peru and is working towards a copper mine in southern Arizona. The company also has exploration properties in Canada, Peru, Chile, and United States. And they also do a little bit of smelting, which that will come in a little bit more important later. An American company, Gold Resource Corporation, is developing a mine. This one is in Michigan. It's called the Back 40 Mine. It's not even like, doesn't even have a status on it right now. It was organized under the laws of Colorado, August 24th, 1998. Since 2010, GRC has produced gold and silver doré and copper, lead, and zinc concentrates in Mexico. Basically, it's well, yeah, they've been primarily in Mexico as an American company. Um, they're developing an American mine, so there's that one. This next one's a fun one. It is an American company, though. Polymet Mining. They're based out of St. Paul, Minnesota. The mine that they are working on has all state and federal permits issued for an open pit mine. This is in St. Louis County, Minnesota, called the North Met Mine. The proposed mine is controversial because copper nickel mining is riskier than iron ore mining, and it's on land owned by the U.S. Forest Service. So they're going to be running the mine, but they don't own the land that it's on. EPA has determined that the project may affect the water quality of Wisconsin and the Fond du Lac Band. In November 2023, the administrative court recommended denying a permit for the project because the design would risk contaminating too much water. The project has been stalled by permitting issues and lawsuits. In April 2023, the Minnesota State Supreme Court revoked the key water pollution permit. May 2017, 4 lawsuits were filed that could delay the project. So basically, yeah, it's a bunch of mess, and you've got a bunch of environmentalist groups that are wanting to hurt workers and, the economy. This next one started out as a project. Okay. The company that is going to be working on this is a Canadian company through a branch called Sandfire Resources America. But the project, Black Butte Copper, actually started out in America. They hired the guy that has been working with the ranchers as a vice president. They created Sandfire Resources America. It's a subsidiary of Sandfire Resources. The vice president, Jerry Zig, was born and raised in White Silver Springs and grew up in the Smith River. 85, after earning his master's degree in geology from the University of Montana, Jerry and his exploration team discovered the Johnny Lee deposit. That is what this is called. The remarkable site would later become the Black Butte Copper Project. Many people didn't realize it was formed when the ranchers who owned this land had reached out to Jerry. So this one, probably the funding is coming from the Canadian overview, but how it's turned out is that it's a Canadian company going to be running a place that the people that own the land are American farmers. So that's an interesting little story there. Okay, so our last mine that is actually in construction is owned by Tassico, which is a Canadian company. A lot of Canadian companies doing this. It's a mid-tier copper producer located in British Columbia, Canada. Operates the Gibraltar mine, the second largest open pit copper mine in Canada, and is in the planning stages for several other mines, including the Prosperity Mine, Harmony, and Ali. All production is sold at non-hedged market-based prices. The market capitalization currently is roughly $740 million, so it's actually a smaller one. And this is in Florence, Arizona. So, yeah, a lot of Canadian companies. Now, let's first talk about something interesting. There are only three copper smelting plants in the United States. That means if these get over capacity, they have to be sent out of country. The three smelters, one is in Hayden, Arizona, and is owned by Grupo Mexico. Another one is in Garfield, Utah, owned by Rio Tinto, which, like I said before, is a British Australian company. And the third is in Miami, Arizona. How many Miamis are there in this country? Okay, sorry. And that one's an American-owned one by Freeport McMoran. So think about that. To get copper, to get all the metal done correctly and to be refined, the smelters in this country, there's only three of them, and two of them aren't even American-owned. In 2015, out of 1.25 million metric tons of recoverable copper metal extracted from mines, 320,000 tons of copper were exported in the form of ore and concentrate to be smelted and refined elsewhere. So think about that one. And on top of that, we've got all this that's going on. The U.S. produces domestically just over half the refined copper it consumes each year. More than two-thirds of that is mined in Arizona, where the development of a massive new mine has been stalled for more than a decade. The remaining refined copper, just shy of 1 million metric tons annually, is imported. While the White House framed the new tariffs, talking about Trump and tariffs, as a way to counter China's dominance on the global market, the U.S. in fact imports most of its refined copper from the Americas. Mostly from Chile, like I said earlier, then Canada, Peru, Congo, and Mexico. Chile, Congo, Peru, China, U.S., Indonesia, Russia, Australia, Kazakhstan. That's the order in which countries producing copper are. And most of it, like I said, Chile, by quite a bit. China is expanding its control over world copper mining through its major investments in mines in the Democratic Republic of Congo. DRC is now the world's second largest copper miner after overtaking China, due in large part to massive Chinese investment in the African country's mining sector. So, we have to do this to counter China, and we don't have the facilities in the U.S. to be able to handle. You've already heard me talk about all the mining. We don't have the ability to refine and smelt all the copper that's coming in, or we're mining. On top of that, everybody else is benefiting. Think about that. More countries are profiting off of our resources. I know this was a long video, but I wanted to show you the extent of U.S. mining when it comes to copper. Only 12 of the mines that are in use or are being developed are American, while 14 that are either in use or being developed are ran by foreign entities. Think about that. Think about how much of our resources are being used to help foreign countries and their companies. Yes, I know Canada is our ally, but still, wouldn't you prefer to have that be American? Thankfully, they're employing American citizens in this, but there's a lot to be said for, us and us being in control of our resources. But that's just my thought processes. This has been Paul, the Redneck Thinker. Y'all have a good day now. Bye.